What if the ringing in your ears, the sudden heart flutters that seem to come out of nowhere, strange crawling or tingling sensation across your skin, or even a burning sensation in your mouth, could all show up during perimenopause? Because when most women think about perimenopause, they think about hot flashes, night sweats, and irregular periods. But those are only part of the story. There are symptoms women experience in their 40s that can feel so strange and so completely disconnected from their hormones that they never think to ask, wait, could this be perimenopause too? Today I'm sharing 7 of the weirdest and most surprising symptoms associated with perimenopause transition. And some of them have absolutely nothing obvious to do with your reproductive system. Stay with me through number 7 because it's probably the strangest one on the list. I'm Lidija Atlas, Doctor of Natural Medicine, and here on the Thriveology Show, we have the conversations women over 40 aren't having nearly enough. And before we get started, if you're a woman over 40 or you know and love one, take a second to like this video, subscribe to the Thriveology Show, and share this episode with another woman who needs to hear this. It takes just a moment, but it helps this information reach more women who may be sitting at home wondering, what in the world is happening to my body? Now, one more important thing before we begin. Just because a symptom can occur during perimenopause doesn't mean we automatically blame hormones. New, severe, persistent, or concerning symptoms should always be properly evaluated. But once you understand how extensively this hormonal transition can influence the body, some seemingly unrelated changes begin to make a lot more sense. Let's start with number 1 because this one can be genuinely frightening. Heart palpitations. Heart palpitations. You're sitting quietly, maybe you're working, maybe you're driving, or maybe you're lying in bed trying to fall asleep and suddenly, boom, boom, boom. Your heart starts pounding or fluttering. Maybe it feels like it's skipping a beat. Maybe you suddenly become very aware of your heartbeat and you immediately think to yourself, what is happening to my heart? Heart palpitations, or some women report during their menopausal transition, can be incredibly unsettling, particularly when you've never experienced anything like this before. Part of what makes perimenopause so confusing is that your hormones aren't necessarily declining in a nice, predictable, straight line. They're fluctuating, like the stock market. And those hormonal changes occur within a body where your cardiovascular system, nervous system, temperature regulation, sleep, and stress response are all interconnected. So a woman may begin experiencing sensations that feel completely unrelated to her reproductive hormones. But here's where I want to be very clear. Please don't hear this video and think I'm 45, so these heart palpitations must just be perimenopause. No, palpitations can have many causes: thyroid condition, anemia, certain medications, stimulants, cardiac arrhythmia, stress and anxiety, and other cardiovascular conditions. However, if they're coming along during this special phase in life, you may want to consider that this transition is part of your hormonal landscape changing. And this brings me to symptom number 2. And it may feel like your skin has developed a new mind of its own. The tingling, the pins, the needles, and the creepy crawly sensation all over your skin. Have you ever suddenly felt like something was crawling across your skin? You look down and there's absolutely nothing there. Or perhaps you've experienced strange sensations like tingling, pins and needles, itchiness, little prickling sensations, or areas of your skin that simply feel different. There's actually a word for the sensation of insects crawling on or underneath the skin. It's called formication. And yes, unusual sensory symptoms are reported by some women around menopause. One of the biggest misconceptions about estrogen is that it belongs exclusively to the reproductive system. It doesn't. Estrogen receptors exist in tissues throughout the body, and changing hormonal levels can interact with the skin, the nervous system, the blood vessels, and sensory perception. At the same time, skin can become drier as estrogen declines, which can contribute to that itching and other changes in sensation. And here's what often happens. A woman experiences something strange. She can't see anything wrong. Nobody around her understands what she's describing. And eventually she starts wondering, am I imagining this? You're not imagining this sensation. And don't dismiss what your body is telling you simply because the symptoms sound strange. Investigate it, recognize it, because your body is changing during this stage of life. Now, number 3 is one most women will probably never connect to perimenopause: your mouth. Imagine suddenly noticing that your tongue feels like it's burning, but you haven't burned it. You didn't drink anything too hot. You didn't eat anything too spicy. It just burns. Some women around menopause experience symptoms involved the mouth, including burning, tingling, dryness, changes in taste, gum discomfort, or an unusual sensation involving the tongue, lips, or other areas of the mouth. And there's even a recognized condition called burning mouth syndrome, and it occurs disproportionately in peri and postmenopausal women. And again, think about how confusing that would be. You're expecting hot flashes. Maybe you're expecting your period to become irregular, but nobody told you. By the way, your mouth might suddenly feel different. I want you to consider this. Perimenopause isn't happening only to your ovaries. You're going through a hormonal transition inside a body in which hormones communicate with tissues throughout your entire system. And that's why these symptoms can sometimes appear in places that seem completely unrelated, including your mouth. And number 4 takes us somewhere else you probably weren't expecting: your ears. Have you ever been sitting around completely quiet and suddenly noticed ringing, buzzing, humming, or another sound that nobody else can hear? That's tinnitus. Some women report developing tinnitus or noticing changes in existing tinnitus during the menopausal years. Researchers have investigated relationships between sex hormones and auditory function. And we cannot simply just say estrogen drops, therefore you get tinnitus. It's not that simple. However, it does affect the ears. And the body does not operate as a collection of independent departments. It operates as an interconnected biological system. So now, these researchers are interested in seeing how female hormone transition interact with auditory health. And now we're moving into something that I hear women talk about constantly. Number 5. Why does my body suddenly hurt? You wake up one morning and you think, why do I suddenly feel like I'm 80? Your fingers feel stiff, your knees ache, your hips don't feel the same way, your shoulders are bothering you. Maybe getting out of bed takes a little longer than it used to, and you start blaming yourself. Maybe I'm not exercising enough. Maybe I'm exercising too much. Maybe I slept wrong. Maybe my pillow is the wrong pillow. Maybe I need a new mattress. Maybe I'm just getting old. But joint and muscle discomfort are reported during this transition, because estrogen has relationships with bone, muscle, connective tissue, and inflammatory signaling. So this transition contributes to the changes you are experiencing. I don't want you to accept the notion, well, you're getting older, and that's the end of the conversation. Aging isn't a diagnosis. It's something hurts. Let's investigate it. Look at your movement, at your muscle mass, at your strength, sleep, nutrition. Look at vitamin D status. Let's look at any injuries, any inflammatory conditions. Let's look at your metabolic health. And yes, let's look at what's happening to you hormonally. Because women after 40 don't need resignation. We need more intentional support. And this is why I'm so passionate about women understanding their muscles and bones as they move through midlife. Your skeleton isn't simply scaffolding holding you upright. Bone is living, dynamic tissue. In fact, your bones participate in biological signaling in ways most women have never been taught. I'm actually going to dedicate an entire episode to this because we're learning about the relationship between bones and whole body physiology in fascinating ways. So if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do because you're going to want that episode. Now let's move from what's happening underneath your skin to your skin itself. Number 6, your skin. And I'm not simply talking about wrinkles. You may suddenly notice, why is my skin so dry? Why am I itchy? Why don't my skincare products seem to work the way they used to? Why does my face suddenly look different? Some women look into the mirror at 40 and feel as though their face changed almost overnight. And of course, it didn't literally happen overnight, but the changes can sometimes become so surprisingly noticeable quickly. Estrogen plays an important role in skin physiology, including relationships between collagen, hydration, thickness, and elasticity. As estrogen declines, skin changes. And here's where I think we often make a mistake. We treat skin exclusively from the outside in, thinking new creams, new serums, new procedures, new moisturizers, new toners. And I'm not saying that that does not matter, but your skin is part of your entire biology. Nutrition matters, protein matters, sleep matters, sun exposure matters. Smoking matters, stress matters, exercise matters, metabolic health matters, and hormonal transition matters. Your skin isn't simply decorative wrapping around your body. Your skin is an organ, and it's giving you information about what's happening internally. And I'm going to do an entire episode on why the face can seem to change so dramatically during perimenopause and beyond as well. But now we're at number 7, and this is probably the strangest symptom on today's list. Some women describe sudden sensations that feel almost like tiny electrical shocks. A zap, a jolt, or a quick electrical sensation moving through parts of your body. And if you've ever experienced something like this without knowing why, it can be unnerving. You'll see electrical shock sensations discussed frequently in lists of unusual menopausal symptoms. But I want to make an important distinction here. Electrical shocks can appear during this transition. Now, the message is not that everything strange that happens after 40 is hormones. The message is your system deserves investigation, and your hormonal transition deserves to be part of that investigation. Now let's look at everything we've talked about. We've talked about your heart, your skin, your mouth, your ears, your joints, your sensory nervous system. What could all of this possibly have to do with perimenopause? Well, for generations, women have been led to believe menopause has essentially been reduced to your period stop and you get hot flashes. But that's a incomplete picture. Perimenopause is a whole body transition, and it can begin years before your final menstrual period. So when a woman in her 40s tells me or says, I don't recognize myself or my body anymore, I don't want her to feel dismissed. I don't want her frightened. I want her curious. What changed? When did it change? What symptoms appeared together? How is she sleeping? How is she eating? How are her stress levels? How much muscle does she have? What's happening with her menstrual cycle? What is she taking or supplementing with? What is her body trying to communicate? What are her emotions trying to communicate? Because the body leaves clues. And the goal is to understand the whole woman. So here's something incredibly simple you can start doing today. Track your symptoms, not obsessively, curiously. Write down, when did the symptoms occur? When were they in your cycle? How did you sleep the night before? Was your stress unusually high? What did you eat? What other symptoms are appearing at the same time? Because patterns are information. There's a big difference between waking into an appointment and saying something just doesn't feel right, and saying this has happened 3 days before my period for 4 consecutive cycles, and these 3 symptoms always appear together. So you become your own Sherlock Holmes. You need to investigate all the clues your body, your mind, and your emotions are leaving you. And if nobody prepared you for how much your body could change after 40, this is exactly why I created the Thriveology Show. We're going beyond hot flashes. We're going to talk about your brain, your bones, your metabolism, your muscles, your skin, your sleep, your nervous system, your intimate health, and the changes women experience but aren't always talking about. Because this chapter of your life shouldn't begin with what's wrong with me. It should begin with, let me understand what's happening in my mind, in my body. Now I want to hear from you. Tell me in the comments which number surprised you most from 1 through 7. And if you've experienced a strange symptom you'd like to share after 40 that wasn't on today's list, tell me what it is. I may just cover it in an upcoming episode. And if you know another woman who's been wondering what's happening to her body, her mind, her emotions, send her this episode. I'm Lidija Atlas. Thank you for spending this time with me. And remember, your body and this transition is not something to fear. It's something to understand. I'll see you next time on the Thriveology Show.